You ever just do something that is so normal and part of your day and it sparks this weird like memory from like your childhood? So I was just making a fresh cup of coffee and I was using the spoon to like, because I put too much and I had to put my cover on. So I was using the spoon to like, kind of sip it to get it down, whatever. And it reminded me of, I was probably like 8 or 9 years old. We lived in New Bedford on North Front Street, and at that time, my mom, she always had gone out drinking like a lot. It was just like a normal thing. But um, I was around 8 or 9, and she used to have the girl downstairs babysit me basically while she went to get milk. And we used to stay up all night playing cards and just drinking pots of coffee. Yeah, 8, 9 years old doing that. With I think the girl that watched me was only like 11. My mom and her mom just like always went out and partied together. And just like the idea that we were home alone till like 3, 4 in the morning, drinking pots of coffee, knowing we weren't going to school the next day. And then I started thinking about like, a little deeper into that time and having to call around all the, bars that she frequented. And, saying, hey, is my mom there? And they knew who I was. They'd say, no, she's not here. She, left with your aunt. They probably went to this place. And I'd have to call around just to pretty much make sure she was alive. Because she would always say, oh, I'm running to the store, I'll bring you back candy or whatever. So I would wait. I'd wait for hours and hours for her to actually come home. And naturally, she never came home with a bag of candy. And it would be like 4 in the morning. And there were times that like she was so shit-faced, she would like pee the bed. So I'd have to like get up in the morning and kind of take care of her. And people always wonder why I say, if I'm going somewhere, I want my car. Or, if we're meeting somewhere, I'm going to drive. I don't want to wait for someone to come and get me, because that feeling of I don't want to be somewhere that I cannot leave. I don't want to be stranded in a situation where I can't get out of it. And that's a whole other reason for that. But also, I don't like waiting for people to come and like pick me up, because it just reminds me of sitting in that window waiting to see my aunt's car come down the road. And just so many times just sitting there crying and frustrated, like why doesn't she come back when she says she's going to come back? Why does she go out drinking all night long? As a kid, it's exciting to not have to go to school the next day. And I always knew if she wasn't at the bar, her and my Aunt Maria would be drinking all night. So it was like, cool, not going to school tomorrow. Was cool until I had to stay back in second grade because I missed so much school due to her partying. But it's always so interesting doing like daily things as an adult now. And I am reminded by things that happened in my childhood that actually went through life with me. And, it's people are just kind of weirded out sometimes, like, no, like we'll go together. It's like, no, I'm not going to wait for you to come pick me up. And if I am in a situation where I want to leave, I want to leave. I want to have the means to just get up and go and not wait for someone to come and get me or leave with me or whatever. And I don't think, at that age, my mom understood like how that affected me. And of course, like now it's something I just can't bring up because she her view of how our childhood went is, you know, very skewed in a lot of ways. Um, I didn't have a horrible childhood. I just seen things from a young age, learned from them, um, but also just a lot of things that a kid shouldn't have to kind of go through. And the other day I was driving, and I do my best thinking in the car in the shower, and I was thinking about the amount of birthdays where she was hungover, um, and she would just be miserable and not feeling good, and you know, dressed just in pajamas, um, and like setting up for the birthday, and like all my friends would come over, and you know, right after everyone left, it was like she would just go back to bed. And it's just like weird things like that. I don't like being in the house with all the lights off. Like if it's not sunny out, I need lights on. um, Lights off to me, when I was younger, if I got home from school and all the lights were off, that meant she was hungover. And it was just such like a somber feeling. It was like it had to be quiet. I had to, you know, have cereal for dinner, didn't get help with homework, like just things like that where it's in my adult life. So like if I go to my kid's grandmother's house and they're all sitting in the kitchen and it's kind of like dark in there, I put all the lights on, and they kind of just laugh about it, um, because I think I've mentioned it before, like why it bothers me. Um, but even in my own house, like if I come in and it's just one of those things that you don't realize um, affect you as an adult. It was just such a dumb, small thing. But as soon as I walked into that house, it was like I got sad because it was like, you know, she's not up. She's not going to ask how my day was. Um, you know, she's not feeling good. She's going to be miserable. So, yeah, making a cup of coffee kind of brought all that back. And it was just such a strange time in my life in general. Um, when I was like 8 or 9 and we lived there, we live right next door to a funeral home. And the guy that owned the funeral home owned our house. And I remember there were certain times where my mom would be like, don't go outside. Don't let Oliver see you. I haven't paid the rent yet, blah, blah, blah. And then he would come to the house, knock on the door, and my mom would be like, just go in the room, go be quiet. Like, you know, we didn't have a car, so he had no way of knowing if we were home. But I remember like hiding in the closet because he would like, you know, bang on the door or whatever. And it was just like, I didn't grow up seeing someone that was stable in a sense. We lived off of welfare. She absolutely could have worked, but didn't. And I didn't see someone that knew how to run a household, that knew how to um, you know, just be like a functioning adult at times. And so when I got older, all kinds of shit happened. But basically, I was like 14, no, maybe like 16, when she became an addict, heroin addict. And it was just weird for me because all my aunts and uncles had been addicts their whole life. My mom was the only one that wasn't. So she started really late in her life, um, and married this heroin addict. He was absolutely horrible, um, and, you know, was not nice to me at all. And at the time, I was dating this guy, Chad, and he was the most amazing person. Um, and his life was totally different. Like he came from, you know, they lived in a house, you know, we always lived in apartments, and he had a good job, and he had like, you know, a Mustang and a Ford Bronco. Like he had two cars. That was like insane to me. And his mom was just so sweet. Like his life was just totally different than mine. And, you know, he would pick me up from school and bring me to his mom's house to kind of keep me away, protect me in a sense from my mom and her husband. And, um, you know, up until that point, I, again, hadn't seen someone that knew how to run a household, that paid bills on time, that just, I remember so many times living on Roof Street. That was like the last place I lived with my mom. Well, not entirely. Um, but, there were times we didn't have soap. We didn't have, shampoo, like things like that, where it was like toilet paper. We would go without toilet paper, and it was like, just use pieces of paper towel for now. And, you know, it sucked. It seriously sucked because they would have money for heroin and, you know, to drink and shit like that. But it was like, we don't have a bar of Dove soap, like nothing. And so he used to pick me up and kind of protect me. And then he died on his 21st birthday. It was, we were out celebrating. He was a few years older than me, but I was able to get into the bar. And so we were drinking and stuff like that. And then one of our friends got carded, and she was, underage. And so we had to leave. And excuse me, he didn't want to leave his Mustang there. So his other friend, who was, less drunk than he was, offered to drive his car back to the house. So I drove with that friend's girlfriend. We were in front of them, and I remember like turning around and like waving at him, and he was like waving at me. And then we turned like a corner and they weren't behind us anymore. And the other kid's girlfriend was like, oh, let me turn around. Like, that's weird. So we turned around, and as we turned that corner, we saw Chad's car, his Mustang, through the wrought iron fence of like, it was like some big building or whatever. And neither of them were getting out of the car. So like we, jumped out of the car and ran over. And people had already like called the cops and stuff like that. So her boyfriend, had blood on his face, but he like got out. And I noticed Chad wasn't getting out. So I like went around the other side, and yeah, he died on impact. They said they were breathing for him, whatever. But he was dead. So we went to the hospital, and this is like one of those defining moments where, before that happened, it was like, she was fucking up. She was doing the things she was doing, and it was like, whatever, because I had someone that made sure I ate, made sure I had toiletries, like things like that. He really, took care of me. And so we went to the hospital, and I called my mom, and I was like, hey, like Chad was in an accident. He wasn't moving. Like, I need you to come to the hospital. And I called my Nana too, because my mom didn't, have a car. So, I'm outside. I'm like fucking losing my mind. I remember saying to his mom, like, I can't believe this happened. And I remember her saying, how did you think this wouldn't happen? Like, you guys were out drinking and blah, blah, blah. So it's like something that always sticks in my head. But I remember my mom, pulling up in a cab with her husband. And so I'm like running over because I see them pull up. I'm like fucking losing my mind. And they had been arguing in the cab. And so when she got out of the car, he jumped out and started walking the opposite direction, like swearing at her or whatever. And she went after him. She like, I'm standing there like just losing it. and she runs after him. And it was like, are you kidding me right now? Like, mind you, this is the first person that ever died that like I directly knew. I was like 19 years old. I had never gone through someone that I knew dying. So I'm watching her run after him, like he's moving, like going away from the hospital. And I'm just like sitting there, like fucking losing my mind. My Nana pulls up, jumps out, comes over to me, and sees like my mom and him, like now they're fighting. And, she kind of yelled at her or whatever, but came inside the hospital with me. Um, and that was, one of those moments where her and I would never be the same after that. Like, I needed her. I never asked for much from this woman. I used to cut really bad. Like, she just acted like it wasn't happening. Like, there was just so much going on. And then I met Chad, and it was like he protected me and like helped me like with different things that I was suffering with. And she chose like a guy over me, like the one time I truly reached out to her because I needed her. And so, it's one of those things where like I think it's only been brought up like once. And she was like, oh, I'll never forgive myself for that. And it's like, I can't either, like, how do you, I never understood it. And I think that's why I am the way that I am, like when it comes to my kids. I never choose a man over my kids. And if there were significant red flags with someone that I was dating, and my kids voiced their opinions that like they weren't comfortable around them, or they treated my kids like shit, that would be the end of it. That wouldn't be something that I would ever put my children through. I would never allow them to feel that way, to feel so um like they weren't good enough to be chosen. Your kids should always come first. And I know people have issues with that, like, oh no, take care of your relationship first and that kind of crap. I never understood that, but maybe it's because I went through what I went through. She always chose men over us. And so yeah, so after that, the next like 10 years, or something like that, we're just like a hot mess in my life because she was an addict. um, I had met this family through someone that my brother was dating briefly, and they took me in. I was stranded in New Hampshire at that time. It was just so much stuff. But, those things affected, my adult life in like my 20s. They were kind of a blur. And it was all because, like, once you feel like your own parent doesn't choose you, doesn't think you're enough to fight for, it just kind of distorts, or it distorted my whole view of like myself. And if I was good enough for someone to ever choose me. And up until this point, to this day, jury's still out on that one, because it's never happened. I've always been like the runner up or the rough draft, as far as like relationships go, or the one that you settle with. So I don't know. It just, so much happened in my young adult life or my childhood that I didn't realize at the time would be so significant when I grew up. And, I'm, in a way, I'm happy, like, not everything, but some of the things that I went through, because as a mother, my first rule and promise to myself, when I found out I was pregnant with my first son, was you are going to do everything opposite. You know, if you see your child is struggling, you're going to help them. You're not going to ignore the signs, because there are so many signs of mental illness, and they were just ignored. And now as an adult, I have to deal with it. I have to figure out how to get through life with this distorted view, and, you know, dealing with being bipolar and having borderline personality disorder. It's like these things where I sometimes wonder, if I didn't go through a lot of the things that I went through, would I deal with what I deal with now? And, you know, the, in a sense, fear that people will leave me, but also I've armored myself where I will never beg someone to stay, because I watched her do that. Um, and it was just, you know, that was my rule. You're not going to do anything she did. You're the only thing that she did, you know, she did show affection to us. Um, and she did love us. Um, and so I do bring that, you know, into my relationship with my kids. Like, we're very affectionate. Um, but they've always come first. And even, you know, my relationship with their dad ended. It was absolutely horrible and traumatic for me in many different ways. But, you know, don't ever beg for someone to love you. It does more harm in the long run. But also, as a parent, for me anyway, it's not about me. Obviously, I allow myself to feel things to a certain extent. But when it comes to them, they're never, you know, they've never been left home alone while I went out drinking. Um, I've never been hungover for a birthday. Their Christmases have always been pretty amazing. So I am happy for the things that I went through, but I also think some of those situations and, you know, defining moments also shaped who I am in a good way, where I'm more self-aware um, and have street smarts, just because I grew up in the ghetto. So I feel like they may not have some of those things, but it's like, is that a good thing or a bad thing? I learned from a young age, you read the room, you say what people want to hear in that room. You don't, you pick your battles. Um, and I'm just a very observant person, which is good and bad. I pick up patterns, good and bad. Um, and I am just still trying to figure out how to handle all that stuff. But moral of the story is, you never know when a simple daily task, or just like going to a place, you never know when it's going to trigger such a weird um, moment in your life where you're like, wow, that was actually pretty fucked up. Um, and so, yeah, I just, I don't know. I just need to get that out, I guess, because it's just such a weird thing to be triggered by. I drink coffee all the time. I make coffee all the time. But yeah, thanks for listening. Be safe. Take care.